joining me. My name is Ari Greenbaum. I am one of the co-founders of conXpros. Today's video, I wanted to focus on the call process from the time you get a lead, either by text or by email, delivered to you, to what you're doing with that lead to help that come to fruition, being an appointment, giving an estimate, and of course, leading to a job at that point. So I want to take you through some of the things that have been shared with me directly or indirectly through one of my reps that I've been working in the past 13 plus years in this business from the successful pros. And I will tell you that there is very clear common denominators amongst those that are successful with leads, and I'm happy to highlight those, and big separators between those that are successful and those that are not. I can also tell you some of the things I share are coming from personal experience. I've ran leads in the roofing business and also ran leads for HVAC as well as window replacement. So I got firsthand knowledge of getting a lead, cultivating it, and bring that to a paying customer. So again, just wanted to get started with that and helping you understand things. I'm going to give a shameless plug here to our blog. If you've never checked out our blog, I do contribute to it as often as I possibly can, but it's intended to give you tips and tools to be successful. The only reason I'm bringing that up right now is there are a couple recent articles that are focused on how to be successful with lead generation. So part of that is the call process, and I'm going to use that as a helpful tool, a visual tool for you, and would refer you to the blog for extra reading, extra background on this, but it'll give us a nice talking point. So the most essential thing that you do with a lead, beyond anything else, is that you are calling that lead quickly. You'd be amazed at how many people over the years that I've talked to or have listened to calls between them and a representative, and when asked, what is your call process? How quick are you responding? They say, I call quickly or I call immediately. But in reality, they're reaching out 5, 10, 20 minutes or even longer after a lead is delivered to them. Again, the opportunity to make contact with the lead massively decreases once the first couple of seconds or couple of minutes have passed us by. So that is step number one. If I scroll down here, it's using the screen share, we're on the general blog page. 2 posts ago, from the time making this video, was an article titled, I Feel the Need for Speed, because that is an essential piece to it. That's speed to call a lead. So when you get it, you need to call literally instantaneously. There are sole proprietors, owner-operators that we work with, and I make a recommendation in the article, and I'll make the same recommendation here, that most lead services you can manage from your mobile device in terms of the being in an active status or a pause status, temporarily pause status, as with our own service here. If you're about to walk into a customer's house for an estimate or you're doing work itself and you're unable to get a lead and respond to it immediately, use the pause feature. That's what it's there for. Make sure you're not getting a lead and putting yourself behind the 8 ball by not calling it quickly and allowing that homeowner to go elsewhere to find their bids. Because that's exactly what's going to happen. These are internet-driven consumers. If you are not reaching out to them and you're not doing so quickly, it's an instant gratification world we live in, they will go elsewhere. They will go to another site. They will submit their information. They will get the help they need, whether from you or from someone else. So speed is essential. Now, again, that's not the end of the game. You're not going to reach every single lead just by calling quickly. It's just the reality of leads. So the next article that I shared here, and I'm going to click into this one, is what do you do after that first call? So I'm going to share some process that I mentioned are coming from tons and tons of successful clients over the years, as well as my own personal process that I would recommend. And again, I have a lot of folks that I've talked to that do more than this, but at bare minimum, this is what I would recommend if you want to be successful with your leads. So I'm just going to click into this article here and scroll down as there is some background information, and then I get into the process after the first call. If I am not successful in reaching someone on that first call, as I say here, the next thing I do is an immediate sending of a text message. We are in 2020. Text messaging, SMS messaging is a part of our everyday lives. And understanding that often a person that is submitting a lead is not always in a place that they can answer a phone call. So we want to reach out to them immediately. Following that up with an immediate text, letting the person know that we've gotten their information, we would like to speak to them or communicate with them in order to set up a time for an estimate and provide them the help that they need. The next thing after that, which is really a forgotten piece, is to call the lead 10 to 15 minutes after your first call. Seems crazy. I'm going to make 2 calls within the first couple of minutes. Yes, absolutely. Why? Is that person may be either busy or on the phone with someone else. For example, if they are submitted on a different service, or if you're part of a shared lead service, unlike conXpros, there are multiple people calling. You're not always going to be the first one. You might not have their attention. But if you are calling 10 to 15 minutes later, you are setting yourself up for an opportunity to speak to someone, but typically a call will last with someone else in that 8 to 10 minute range. You want to give yourself enough time so you could be the next person they speak to. Highly recommend making that second call 10 to 15 minutes after the first call. As I wrote here, don't leave a voicemail. You left a voicemail the first time, don't leave another one. Just make the phone call. You'd be amazed at how many people are answering that call. I always like to make an additional call before the end of the first day. So following the process, a call immediately, calling again 10 to 15 minutes later, and make another call before the end of day 1. Doing it a little later in the day, whether it's in the late afternoon or evening, or if you got the lead earlier in the morning, calling around lunchtime, you're taking advantage of the opportunity at a time they'd be more likely to answer. Again, people work. They have kids. They are involved. They might not always be able to answer your call when you're making the call, so setting yourself up for multiple touch points in the same day. I always send an email as well. As if you haven't noticed, 3-prong approach: phone, text, and email. All 3 are important. Send an email. I do this towards the end of the day. Have some kind of a templated email that you can plug in their name, letting them know that you've received their information. Has a little basic marketing information about your company, who you are, maybe a link to your website. But send that email out. There's many ways to automate this kind of thing in today's world with CRMs, so make it easy on yourself. But make sure an email is getting sent out to every single person. We don't know which means is their primary or preferred means of communication. We want to make sure we're hitting on all 3. Day 2 and day 3 are very similar, making an additional call on each of those days. I vary the time, so if a lead came to me in the afternoon, I'm going to call the next day in the morning when I'm making that day 2 call. Day 3, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call in the evening, or I'm going to vary it. I want to make sure I'm not calling at the same time today, because perhaps that was not the right time. Calling on day 2 and day 3 with the variation, you're going to have a better chance of reaching people. The other thing that I recommend as well is an additional email and text message. Don't need to go overboard with this, but send 1 additional email, 1 additional text message within that 3-day period. If you're following a process like this, I am willing to guarantee you that your contact rate with your leads, whether for the service like conXpros or any service out there, is going to increase. We want you to be successful leads, no matter who it's with, because at the end of the day, your success is what matters. This is a process that I know works. I'm not just sharing my own information. I just wanted to share with you some other things that are from the blog. I did an interview with one of our clients, been a client with us almost back when we first started, client with a company called Contractor. His name is Steven. He was kind enough to share what his process is. And there's another client that I'll show you as well, and I did an interview on the blog, and his name is Philip from Bauman & Sons. And their processes are eerily similar. As I mentioned, the common denominators among successful people are what we're talking about here. Multiple calls, calling immediately, multiple calls, using text, using email, any means necessary to reach that lead. That's the common denominator. We've got to be aggressive about it. We can't just wait for them to call you. So I'm going to just share with you these here, and you can easily get to this if you're looking for these on our blog. Just go to the tags. If you go to the interviews tag, you'll be able to find that very easy. Interview is right here. Follow my mouse. So there's 2 articles up here. Both are interviews. I'll go to the bottom one first. This is the one with Craftsman Contractors. And I'll just scroll through. There's a lot of, hello and formalities. But when you get down to it, he shares his call process and kindly does so. So I'm just going to read this to you here so you can understand this is coming from Steven himself, his words. So you want to the secret sauce. In reality, it's not anything secretive and happy to share. My approach is the same with every lead from every source. Within the first minute from when we receive the lead, we use a 3-pronged approach. We text, email, and call. Sound familiar? It sounds excessive, but it works. If the homeowner responds to any of these, we answer using their preferred method of communication to schedule an actual phone call. If they don't respond after the first wave of attempts to contact them, we follow up twice daily, once calling and leaving a message and once calling without leaving a message. We also send them a text each of these days as well, and after 3 days of attempts, then we'll spread the follow-ups out to every other day until they've been reached out to 7 more times. We don't stop there. We then kick it out one more week and try one last time. And he writes, this week follow-up is surprisingly effective. Now, that's well beyond what it is I even suggested as far as the minimal approach to be successful with leads. But it's no surprise why Stephen crushes it with his leads, not just with us, but with other sources as well. And it would be the process that I would recommend to you, or a variation, but keeping those key ingredients. Going back to the other article, again, this is with a different client, with Philip Bowman from Bowman & Sons, and he shares, as I scroll down here, and I asked him, can you elaborate on the process or approach you take to all your leads? And he says, sure, I have a simple rule. Do whatever it takes to reach the lead. After all, I paid for it. I always call them as soon as I see it on my phone. Customers often are amazed at how fast I call them, and it makes a good first impression, that I'm eager to help them. I reach a lot of my leads this way, but not all. If I don't reach them on the first call, I immediately send a text and email with a brief message letting them know that I'm here to help. I keep it simple. I make another 3 calls and send another email and text within the next 2 days. If still no contact, I add them to a later file, sounds similar to what Stephen does, where I try to call and email a week later. So again, both people are doing identical to what I suggested to you, but going even above and beyond that approach. I'm sharing these with you because at the end of the day, I want you to be successful with your leads. There's tools here on our blog, but just like any tool is in your toolbox, if you don't take it out and you don't use it, it's just a nice fancy tool. These are proven formulas for success. If you approach leads, whether from conXpros or from any source, with this diligent approach, multifaceted touch points, doing it over the course of a few days, you will have more success with your leads. Now, you're not going to go ahead and connect with every single lead that you try to. And I just wanted to point out here from Stephen, which was very interesting as well, because I asked him that question, what percentage of your leads do you make contact with? And I wrote him here, impressive. You clearly take your leads in business seriously. Using this process on average, what percent of leads do you make contact with? And I was kind of surprised, but this is what he shares with me. And he's someone that is highly successful with leads. Says he can appreciate the question, but it's not a metric that I track diligently, but I found it fluctuate dramatically depending on the lead source. If you were forcing me to put a number on it, I'd say we're around 50 to 60%. That means that there's still 40 to 50% that they don't reach, even using this process. But again, you don't need to reach every lead to be successful. You're reaching 50%, reaching out of every 10, 5 leads, and you're making contact and getting appointments set up with those folks. Again, that's 5 opportunities. Most contractors we work with out of 5 opportunities should close 1, but typically 2 or maybe even 3 of those jobs because they're very good at what they do. So that is the formula for success. Again, I appreciate you tuning in. We're happy to help. Your account managers are all very well versed in the same process I'm sharing with you. They're happy to help work on that with you and make sure you're successful. But at the end of the day, you got to develop a process. You got to apply that process. You got to do it consistently. If you do that, you can take the if out of if you do this, you'll be successful. It's when you do this, you will be successful. So I do appreciate your time and wish you continued success with your leads.